The following episode of Michigan's Legends and Haunts is sponsored by Ballsy. Hey ladies, it's Steve from Michigan's Legends and Haunts. Still trying to figure out what to get your man for Valentine's Day? Well, let me tell you, don't get him a lame gift like flowers and chocolate. Get him the gift of fresh with the I'm Nuts About You gift set from Ballsy. The set includes ball wash, activated charcoal wash packed with essential oils and plant extracts. Nut Rub, a solid cologne for keeping his boys below and whole body smelling fresh. Comes in 6 fragrances. And don't forget Sack Spray, a portable deodorizing spray great for freshening up on the go. Perfect for the gym when there's no time for a shower. And don't forget about the Your Incrediballs Heart Box, which includes 3 Nut Rub solid colognes, including the V-Day exclusive scent Driftin' Dunes. Retail price is $45, but act now and use our coupon code MILA20 at checkout for 20% off. That's MILAH 20 at checkout. Today, we are talking about the Ypsilanti Ripper, a.k.a. the co-ed killer, a.k.a. the Michigan murderer. Welcome to part 1.
What is that? To Michigan's Legends and Haunts.
Warning. The following content contains graphic descriptions of actual events. Listener discretion is advised.
Okay, so are you buckled in? Are you ready to rock and roll?
My seat and ready to stay here.
All right, because we're going to be here a while. We are talking about the Ypsilanti Ripper. And so here is the TLDL, the too long, didn't listen version. But I would recommend sticking around because this is a wild fucking ride. So the Michigan murders, as they have been called, were a series of killings of young women, and they occurred between 1967 and 1969 in Washtenaw County again. Here we come back to Ypsilanti, just about 30 years later. These took place mostly around the Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti area. The killer has come to be known by many names, including the Ypsilanti Ripper, the Michigan Murderer, and the Co-Ed Killer, to name a few. All of the victims were young women, all between the ages of 13 and 21. All were abducted and raped, then murdered by stabbing or strangulation. Occasionally, their bodies were mutilated before being dumped all within 15 miles of Washtenaw County. So we have the killer, John Norman Collins. I don't know why my notes say Chapman. However, it's John Norman Collins. And he was arrested within a week of the final murder, sentenced to life in prison, and is still being held at the Marquette prison. He was never tried for 5 of the murders or a murder of a 6th girl in California. However, he is believed to be linked to the murders.
He's absolutely linked to the murders.
Oh, 100%. I don't know why they didn't just fucking charge him.
It is not just believed to be. He is 100%. It was him.
We'll let you guys make your own determination, but the connections between all the killings and when they took place and how they took place and just everything surrounding it, it is all too connected.
Yes.
Just So that actually pisses me off that he was only charged with one. But whatever. He's in jail, or he's in prison rather, and we don't have the death penalty anyways. So what are you going to do?
Okay, so this guy he did not have a good life. I'm not making excuses for him or anything, but he was brought up very badly. He was only 20 when he killed the first person. And I mean, he did it out of cold blood. You know, it's just the way that he was raised was just awful. His biological father abandoned him. And his mom married somebody else who also beat him, and I think he had a couple siblings. So first dad beat all of them, left. Second, stepdad beat them, was an alcoholic, he was just in a really bad home life. And the third husband, his name was William Collins. And he also was a drinker. So another alcoholic, another guy that eventually started beating them. And he was even said to use John as a shield to somebody that was pointing a gun at him.
Oh, for real?
Yes. When he was very young.
Man, his mom really knew how to pick him, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And so his parents would go drinking and leave him and his siblings in the car for hours with the doors locked.
While they're in the bar.
While they're in the bar getting drunk. I mean, that's just, he had a lot of pent up anger, a lot of distaste for, people in general, but specifically women. And, he hated his mom for picking these men that treated her and them the way that they did, Right. And then adopting them, that's rough. Yeah. So it is also actually known that John used to abuse animals. And he had once strangled a cat and went on to brag about it to his classmates in school. And fun fact, 70% of serial killers in prison have a history of animal abuse.
I was just going to say, it always seems like these guys and girls, I won't leave out the ladies. Okay. It always seems like they have a history of animal abuse. Yep. That's just crazy shit.
I mean, they got to take it out on something before they start on the people, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's... Practice round? Yeah.
That's not funny. Oh, gosh. Anyways, he went on to grow up a little bit more. He didn't really have time to grow since he was killing people. He got arrested at 22, right? He was 22 years old.
Yeah, 22 or 23. Yeah.
But when he was, a young college student and in high school, he was known as a very friendly, very popular, charismatic man. He got good grades. He was friends with everybody. Nobody had any suspicion of, anything weird about him.
Yeah, they usually are too. Yeah. That's usually how these types of people are described by the people around them. Yeah. And like I told you while we were talking about gearing up for this episode, he is Michigan's Ted Bundy.
I was just going to say Ted Bundy vibes. Yeah.
I just watched Shockingly Evil, Vile, whatever. I can't think of the whole title right now on Netflix. But,
I know what you're talking about.
But seriously, I mean, same thing. Ted Bundy was super, super friendly, super charismatic, and just...
Right.
You'd never
suspect
it.
He had a lot of girlfriends. It's just, Well, he actually so everyone, you know, that knew him thought that he was just this great person, and he had his shit together, you know. Meanwhile, he's at home secretly starting fires in his house.
Right.
He starts with arson because he's got to do something, you know. And he started stealing. He got expelled from school. I think he stole money from somebody in his what's it called? His like college, like frat boys. He like stole.
Oh, frat house.
Yeah, but
frat boys.
There, I don't know. I didn't live that life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then after that, there's a story about him finding his sister with a guy that was not the father of her child that she was currently pregnant with, and he beat the shit out of his sister, called her names. It was really bad, and him and his sister were actually like no longer involved with each other because of that. So like he had a lot going for him on the outside, and everyone thought that he was this great guy. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, he was doing all these little things here and there. And then one day he just killed somebody. And that's where everything starts.
And the first known victim of the Ypsilanti Ripper, a.k.a. John. I am going to call him John, too, because there's a lot in here. I'm not going to be like, Collins. I am going to call everybody by their first name. So the first victim was a 19-year-old Eastern Michigan University student, and her name was Mary Fleazar. She was last seen alive on July 9th, 1967, by a neighbor walking toward her apartment in Ypsi. The neighbor not once, but twice observed a young man in what's been described as a blue-gray Chevy, slowed down near Mary and began talking to her. Both times, Mary shook her head and walked away from the car. Her naked body was found on an abandoned farm in Superior Township on August 7th. So we're looking at almost exactly a month from when she was last seen. And she was only identifiable by dental records. And that took place the next day. So reportedly, her corpse was badly decomposed. However, the pathologist who examined her body was able to determine that she was stabbed approximately 30 times in the chest and abdomen. Her feet had been severed just above the ankle. Her thumbs and sections of her fingers on one hand were missing, and one forearm was severed from her body. The body parts that were severed were never found. Yeah.
That's like some you bullshit right there.
Oh my God, it is.
Yeah.
During her autopsy, multiple abrasions were discovered as well, indicating that she was severely beaten prior to her death. Police theorized that she had also been raped. However, due to the state of her decomposition, no conclusive evidence was able to be found. Police also theorized that she had been raped. However, due to the state of her decomposition, no conclusive evidence was able to be found. When police investigated the crime scene, it was found that the body was moved a total of 3 times before it was discovered, each time only being moved several feet from its previous location. I don't know what that accomplishes. Yeah.
Why? I don't.
That doesn't make sense to me. Now, here's where things get a little, weird. So 2 days after Mary's remains had been identified, was her funeral. And it was reported by the receptionist at the funeral home that a young white male showed up, only being described as having dark hair and driving a blue-gray Chevy. He claimed to be a friend of the family and asked the receptionist for permission to take a photograph of her body as it lay in the casket as a keepsake for the victim's parents. When the receptionist told him...
I don't think her parents want a picture of her dismembered body in a casket for keepsake. No.
I mean, Ashley's family will do that. We have pictures of her grandmother in her casket. We have pictures of her father.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's like.
But this girl was
Postmortem.
decomposed,
right? And
so
that's
badly
the difference.
that only they
Only dental
knew
records.
what. You're right. I don't want a picture of that.
No.
There's no way that they could have. Well, yeah, that's exactly what he was told, right? They can't do that because he was so.
Yeah, he was told it was impossible.
Right.
Impossible.
That
was impossible. And he replied with, quote, "You mean you can't fix her up enough so I could get just one picture of her?" End quote. What?
I think he already knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The receptionist then informed him a second time that it was not possible, and without another word, the young man left the funeral home.
He just went back to get a look, which was super risky, first of all. I mean, why would you like, you literally just killed this girl. Well, I guess it was a month later, but like, you don't go back, especially to the funeral home, and ask for a picture of your victim. Like, that's really, really stupid. Honestly, this guy did not, I mean, it sounds like he was super smart and he got away with it.
Yeah.
But it was just bad police work. I mean, he left a lot of clues. He did a lot of bad, like, he didn't cover it up well, and they didn't catch him. Well, they did.
So obviously he did a really good job.
Right.
Until the very...
Except for he slipped up mentally because he wanted to go back and get a picture to keep as like a trophy.
I agree. Absolutely.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that's not... He was
Murdering
not stable.
Somebody is one thing, but like wanting a keepsake of it to like relive it and think about it and look at it, that's fucked up.
The next murder didn't take place until almost a year after Mary Fleazar was found. So the next body was discovered on July 5th of 1968. This time it was the body of 20-year-old art student named Joan Schell. The body was reportedly partially decomposed and was found by construction workers on the side of the road in Ann Arbor. It was found that Joan was raped and then stabbed 25 times.
Okay, I want to know what in the world makes somebody stab that. I mean, one time is going to kill him. Well, maybe not one time is going to kill him, but like the first girl stabbed 30 times.
30 times.
What are you doing? Like, is it just...
I don't know.
That's a lot.
Making sure you're getting the job done? Like, I don't know.
That's like just pure mutilation. Like, that's a lot. I can't imagine. Well, I mean, I can't imagine stabbing somebody once, let alone 30 times. That's insane. And messy. Like, what?
Yeah.
That is just, I don't know, really messed up. Like, you're just stabbing a dead person at this point, right? They're gone by the first few stabs. Like, why do you just keep going? Like, what is...
I mean, if anything, after the
like
first
crazed.
like 5, they might not be gone. They might be in a state of shock. But
right, but yeah, I mean,
they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think like a homicidal maniac.
Right, you can't answer my question.
No,
I don't get it.
It's gonna stay rhetorical, Melissa. I'm sorry.
I guess it's just maybe the pent up anger that he had for for women specifically. It's he just went off and lost his shit and just stabbed him 30 times. I don't know.
Right. Well, I have kind of a theory that I'll share later.
Okay.
But this time they kind of figured out from the stab wounds that the knife that was used was approximately 4 inches in length. Several of the wounds had punctured her lungs, liver, and her carotid artery, with one additional wound discovered behind her left ear, which fractured her skull. Her throat had also been slashed, and her miniskirt was tied around her neck. It was determined that she had been dead for several days. However, her entire lower body was in surprisingly preserved condition, but her head, shoulders, and breasts were in an advanced state of decomposition. This led the pathologist who performed an autopsy to determine that her body had been stored in a naturally cool environment, but with the upper half of her body being exposed to heat. I don't know what he was doing there. Like, was he doing a little science experiment to see, like, the stages of decomposition and how, like, heat and cold change that? Very weird.
Yeah, that's really weird. I'm not sure what that could have been.
Yeah. So the investigation determined, due to the lack of blood around or beneath her corpse, that her body had laid in the location it was found for less than 24 hours.
Well, maybe he was storing her somewhere, but like couldn't fit all of her in wherever.
Oh, good point.
And that's kind of disgusting. But if she was killed and then not found until like right before, then she was hidden right before she was found, basically.
Yeah.
So, wherever he was keeping her must have just had a difference in temperature, I guess. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So, due to the wounds that were found on her body and the similarities between hers and Mary's body a year earlier, investigators determined that the two murders were connected, and it was at this point that 4 investigators were assigned to work full-time on both cases. So, Joan was last seen by her roommate, Susan Colby, at a bus stop on Washtenaw Avenue on the night of June 30th. So, when was she? She was found on July 5th. Which her roommate, Susan, had accompanied her to. She was headed to see her boyfriend when allegedly she missed the last bus of the evening and intended on hitchhiking. The first vehicle to stop and ask if she needed a ride was occupied by 3 young white males and had been described as a red and black Pontiac Bonneville. The driver had been described as being around 20 years old with short, dark hair. Colby reportedly attempted to dissuade Joan from getting in the vehicle, but Joan took the offer and got in the car, promising to call her as soon as she got to her destination. Less than 3 hours later, Colby reported her missing after receiving no contact. Police tracked down and questioned more than 150 owners of red and black vehicles that resembled the description that Colby gave across the state and came up empty-handed. On August 18th, police announced that all leads had been exhausted. But still, a reward that totaled $7,800 was offered for information that may lead to the conviction of the person responsible for both murders. 2 months after Joan was murdered, 2 more witnesses came forward with information, stating that they had seen her walking down Emmett Street in Ypsilanti with a young man on the night that she disappeared. While neither witness was sure, they believed it to be a young man named John Norman Collins, who was a student at Eastern Michigan University, majoring in elementary education, that he coincidentally lived across the street from Joan. When he was questioned by police, John insisted that he spent that weekend with his mother in Centerline and didn't return to Ypsilanti until July 1st. Initially, police accepted his word and did not look into his fucking alibi.
Okay, I have something to say about that.
Sure.
Okay, so he actually knew, and well, I mean, he was preparing himself for questioning at some point because he kind of figured somebody might see something, especially if she was picked up with 2 other guys in the car, right? There was his car with three teenage, or not teenage,
3
but
total.
3 young people in it,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's just really a stupid move. Like, he was last seen with this girl with 2 of his friends, right? And then she ends up murdered, but his friends were not there when it happened, obviously.
Right.
But anyways, so the police actually said that he seemed, when they went to question him, he seemed very, almost too calm. Like he was trying a little bit too hard. Like what he said was rehearsed, basically.
Right.
You know, like he had been going through this in his mind. But he also dropped a name of his uncle who was a sergeant. And they just kind of dismissed that because, you know, his uncle would vouch for him. And it was, you know. But when they left, he said to them, "I hope you catch that guy." And one of the officers actually said that stayed with him because they never told him exactly what they were looking for.
Right.
They asked him about where he was, what he was doing, and if he knew that girl or had seen her, but didn't give him details. They didn't give him details. They didn't say there's more than one murder and we're looking for one person that killed both of these people. But the way he was acting and when he said, "I hope you catch that guy," you know, the officer was kind of like, it's a bit odd.
Yeah.
But they didn't look into it because he had an alibi and because his uncle was a police officer.
Yeah. That's a weak ass excuse to not look into the alibi though.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. If I'm a police officer and I'm investigating a murder of all things. Okay.
Right.
Petty larceny. Okay, whatever. Go.
Yeah.
But like murder? No.
Right.
You look into that alibi.
His family is in the task force. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like that's
Right?
not. No.
It just doesn't make any sense to
There
me.
are literally police that are like dirty cops.
Right.
Out there, you know. So, I mean that just says nothing. Like, obviously, because he literally did this, and whatever. Like I said, it was the police didn't do a great job. They really didn't, and we'll go over that some more later.
Yay for Ypsilanti Police Department in the from the 30s to the 70s. Good job. No disrespect. Thin blue line, back the blue, whatever. No disrespect. But there had to be something. There had to be something that they could have looked into to stop the remaining.
When the police were there, they looked at his vehicles because, you know, he was seen in first murder, blue Chevy.
Blue-gray Chevy.
Second murder, he was in the red and black car. And that was his vehicle. I don't know about the Chevy, but his car was the red and black one.
The red and black Bonneville.
Yes. And when the cops were there, they asked to see, and he showed them like his motorcycle. I believe he had a motorcycle as well. And he showed them that and a different car. And so they were just like, okay, well, I mean, it's not like they were like, well, do you have any cars anywhere else? You know, like.
Right.
So he made himself look really, well, like they weren't really suspicious.
Yeah.
Except for kind of the way he was acting. But apparently that wasn't enough to
I guess
really
not.
check into it.
So what happens to John Norman Collins And where do the rest of the murders come into play? Join us on part 2.